we've assigned these folks now. I've got 2 kids from this age group, the Gen X or the Gen Y folks coming along. We aren't capturing those folks like we used to, and we've got to do a better job of tackling that. So we've looked at a number of initiatives to attempt to address that. So that was that committee, and then when I was named editor 10 weeks ago, it had been, at that point, the revenue of the paper, which I'm not responsible for mostly, has gotten, the revenue picture's gotten dramatically worse, and you know, that's challenging the product we're able to produce every day. And so I grabbed our top 2 dozen editors, and we headed out of town for 3 days to try to circle the wagons and figure out, you know, that this is a pretty serious problem. And the thing that I talked to the staff about on the day that I was named editor was, we've had a series of well-publicized battles with our owners over the past 7 years, because we've been in a, I think I called it a Groundhog Day nightmare of revenue shrinks, newsroom cuts, revenue shrinks, newsroom cuts, and we were never able to try to get out ahead of that. There was never enough time in the process, and I don't know that, and we never were able to sort of get any traction. So I talked to our publisher, David Hiller, and asked for a timeout. I said, we would just need some time here to formulate a longer range plan to figure out what it is we want to be in this rapidly changing environment, and that's the plan we're working on right now, which is in sort of mid-process. I can talk a little bit about it, but most of it, our thoughts aren't fully formed, A and B. I haven't talked to most of the staff about it, so it would probably not be good for me to talk to you about it before I talk to them. But I can talk a little bit about it in the question phase. And then, so we're in the process of trying to figure out, it's a 3-year plan, what do we want to be in 2010? Because we've never in the newsroom have looked at, we're not a traditional business like a lot of, maybe some of the places you folks work for. We're kind of a, I always like to joke, an extended branch of the government. We've never really had to have a plan. We're very short-term, results-oriented people who can move like crazy in 24 hours, but we're not good at thinking of longer range, not about stories, we're good at that, but not about our business and how do we reimagine ourselves so that we'll actually have a future somewhere down the road. So that's the process we're going through, and some of the things of the general consensus we came to is that in 3 years we need to be, actually less than 3 years, but that's the time frame we've given ourselves. We want to be, you know, top of mind for information in Southern California in every medium that is possible to be delivered. So that would include television, print, mobile, the web, radio. That if you hear something, if you hear a news report or see a news report or look at a news report on your BlackBerry or your PDA or whatever, somewhere in there the name LA Times is coming across the transom. And obviously we've got a terrific newspaper that is already top of mind in the market. If you've been reading really closely some of the news developments at the Tribune Company, our new owners merged the TV station in Fort Lauderdale with the newspaper there a couple of weeks ago, and I think you can expect to see the same thing happen here in LA with KTLA, which they just sold the building to. I will be not surprised if and when KTLA moves into our building downtown in the near future. And we've already, if you're a KTLA watcher, which I hope you are, you've noticed a pretty significant run-up in LA Times personnel on the news station the last several weeks. They're doing some of our stories. We're sending our reporters over to be on camera, interviewees and experts on things. We've got a couple of pretty cool mobile initiatives in the offing that are coming down the pike, and we've dabbled in and out of radio for a number of years, but we're talking to some of the stations in town about developing, and I think one of the obvious ripe spots in Southern California is people have spent a lot of time in their cars going nowhere, and that's a captive audience that we have to figure out a way to reach those folks better than we are now. I mean, I pass people today who are reading us in the car, which is cool, or stay an extra lane away from them. But we have to be able to deliver them podcasts of stories that they want to read in the paper, or they want to hear the Times News on KNX, format or some such. So so that's our longer range plan. But it's a very different operation than what we're used to, than what we run now. We're really good at delivering words on dead trees, and we're not set up to. Our staff isn't fully trained in how to all of them to post onto the web or to deliver mobile content or to look comfortable and unruffled on television. We're a bunch of faces made for radio in our business, and so that's a tough thing to have to go on TV for if you're not trained on how to do that. And so that's sort of our longer range being 2.5 years, which in real business is pretty short range stuff. But for the newspaper business, and especially when it's changing as rapidly as ours, that's the spot we're at today. So we've had some really encouraging and terrific successes with our web effort. Maybe some of you folks are fans of these. We've had gotten a lot of national publicity for our homicide blog that Julie Obi started a couple years ago. You know, we kind of stopped tracking every single murder in LA County as a news organization years ago because there were just so many of them. And that bothered Jill a great deal, and so she decided last year that she was going to track every single one of them for a year and see what would happen. And there wasn't any highbrow journalism that went into it. We just noted, you know, it was a couple of sentences, name, race, age, and we did things with that we wouldn't do in the paper. Like we tried to be somewhat sensitive that we don't in the newspaper always identify the race or someone of the murder victim. But in this one, we were also trying to build a database along with it, and we thought, well, it's a different medium. We're going to try some different things. So that has just become a source of endless fascination for people who spend an awful lot of time just scrolling through that. And there have been some other success stories. The Oakland Tribune's got a really terrific one that they've got mapped interactively with photos and that sort of thing. That's been a popular deal. Two of our oldest employees, Andrew Malcolm and Don Frederick, have put together this blog called Top of the Ticket, which is a riff on the presidential campaign. If you haven't read it yet, treat yourself to it. It's a riot. And that thing went from, it was non-existent last June. It is now in the top 500 blogs of the entire internet. There are over 100 million blogs on the internet. And these guys went from nowhere to under 500 in less than a year through a combination of really unique and witty content. And they are just these, Andrew in particular, is just a one-man marketing machine. You know, the campaigns were a first read for those folks every morning. Stuff gets looped out all over the place. Matt Drudge, who is providing a great deal of tonic to our industry. If you get picked up and linked on Drudge, your story's a guaranteed home run for a couple of days. We get tons of traffic off of that. So it's been picked up there. So we've had some really good success on the web in that front, and we're looking for, I think we've got I heard quickly the other day we maybe have another 40 or so blogs we're going to roll out later this year on a wide range of topics. I think we just popped one the other day called Unleashed, which is a pets blog, and people, you know, one of the jokes in the newsroom is you want to drive traffic or get an animal up on the website somewhere, anywhere, about anything. And so that's people writing about their pets and their relationships with that is what we think is going to be a really terrific driver of traffic. And so one of the things that we learned last year was that there's no magic formula for how to work our way out of this stuff. Myself and Aaron Curtis is a colleague of my chief deputy on the innovation team. We traveled around the country, and I was lucky enough to get to go to Europe back in January, and he and I toured a bunch of newspapers around the country and in Europe to sort of see how different folks are coming at things. And there are as many different variations on the how to reinvent yourself as there are papers or news organizations or people. And it was really cool to see some of the things that they've done. Chris's colleagues at USA Today were extremely gracious. We spent a whole day with them last summer walking through their newsroom, and they've done what we are attempting to do later this year, which is they have actually merged their print and web newsroom into one operation, which would be like getting the Dodgers and the Giants together to play on the same team and not kill each other. The cultures are very different, and you know, we thought we were having all of these problems were unique to us, and we come to find out that this is a global. You know, this is about people and behavioral issues. This isn't some unique business problem that's only something the LA Times is dealing with. So you have an older, more seasoned newsroom that's afraid of change. You've got a really younger, aggressive, let's go print or a web newsroom, and you put the two together, and sometimes you get some sparks and some fireworks. But we've had some pretty good success populating. One of the things I did the first week that I'd been named editor was I moved Meredith Artley, who's our online editor, to the top of the masthead to signal the troops that the web is not only as important as the newspaper right now, it might be more important. It is more important in the longer run because it's going to be the medium that's going to sustain the journalism that we do and take our work, you know,